So let's talk about the fitness world for a second. Now, in the fitness world, the low carb versus high carb debate rages hotter than any other field of nutrition, wellness, whatever, right? Non-stop, because it's been high carb for decades. Decades after decades, it's been high carb, except, again, early bodybuilders, they would use ketogenic diets to cut down for competition. So they knew what keto was, they knew what fat adaptation was, they just didn't have the technical terminology for it, they just knew what their bodies looked like, they experimented, right? But high carb for athletes, particularly endurance athletes, which is crazy, has been the norm for decades and decades. That's literally what all athletes have done, okay? Virtually as long as we've had organized athletics, it's been that way. So for that reason, when low carb blew up, everyone's talking low carb this, low carb, oh my God, so many low carb people. When they started running nutrition studies on athletes, they've done these really small studies like how does keto affect crossfitters or how does keto affect endurance performance and all these things. Now, what happens is the results are always the same because these people don't think big picture. Again, what happens is the athletes see a negative impact in performance. But why? Well, if you're a Clovis client, odds are you've experienced at least a little bit of a sugar detox and the process of becoming fat adapted. Most Americans, again, are metabolically broken. They can only burn one substrate for fuel. They can only burn glucose. That's it. They're just metabolically broken from constant carbohydrate consumption. And most nutrition studies, like I pointed out, are quite short. They're usually a matter of weeks, 2 weeks, 4 weeks. Maybe you'll get 6 weeks. Maybe you'll get 12 weeks. Holy crap, right? So you're testing athletes on performance output after completely shocking their system, taking away the only fuel substrate that their body knows how to burn, and then asking them to perform the same way they always have. And when they do slightly worse, they go, keto's bad for performance. Black and white answer, simplicity, right? It's crazy. So this is why, for instance, with my MMA fighters, any MMA fighter that comes to me, I'm going to get them fat adapted. It's something that I'm going to do. But if they come to me and say, I'm entering fight camp for the next 6 weeks and I need your help, I'm not going to make them fat adapted. I'm going to work within the confines of them being metabolically inflexible. It doesn't make sense for me to do something that could short-term decrease their performance when they're in something like a fight camp. I'm not going to do that because I kind of know what I'm doing a little bit, right? You know? So if a fighter comes to me and I want to make them fat adapted, I have to do that outside of a fight camp. I have to do that when performance is not critical, okay? Now, there's a simple fix for this, and they did it. Okay? Making sure that the test subjects are metabolically flexible prior to beginning the study. Somebody should do this, right? Well, they did. It's called the FASTER study. The title of this study is actually called Metabolic Characteristics of Keto-Adapted Ultra-Endurance Runners. Oh, and they tracked the athletes for 20 months. And the conclusion was, compared to highly trained ultra-endurance athletes consuming a high carbohydrate diet, long-term keto adaptation results in extraordinarily high rates of fat oxidation, whereas muscle glycogen utilization and repletion patterns during and after a 3-hour run are similar. Layman's terms, the keto athletes burned way more fat and burn the same amount of glycogen when necessary. That's the idea of metabolic flexibility. In a glycolytic demand, you will burn glucose. The rest of the time, you should be aerobic and burning fat. So you see, you can run the same test on 2 different individuals, one fat adapted, one not fat adapted, and get very different results. It's the fat adaptation piece that is never tested in low-carb studies with obese individuals or these metabolic ward studies or anything like that. So that's my problem with this whole fitness first mentality. Insulin is not your enemy. It's just calories, blah, 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 blah. There are tons and tons of incredibly intelligent, very well-credentialed people out in the fitness industry who get insanely good results using old school calorie counting, high grain consumption, high sugar, high carbohydrate intake, and bodybuilding. Generally speaking, they're getting insanely good results in other healthy people. Now, arguably, the crazy competition bodybuilding stuff is not healthy. That's a whole different ballgame when you get to that level of body fat and all that. But see, a personal trainer or somebody with a master's in nutrition or a master's in exercise physiology or something like that, when they need to take a fit guy from 14% body fat to 10% body fat, there's a certain way to do that. The issue is they know how to do that very well, and then they come over here and they say, hey, obese client, look what I did to that guy. He has six-pack abs. Don't you want to do his plan? Here's his plan. You better do it accordingly, and if you don't get the results, it's your fault, because look, that guy did it.